Welcome to Seed World 360. Policy But Make It Interesting is a video series that takes the big, often intimidating topics shaping agriculture and strips away the jargon. We bring sharp, real-world insight from the people at the center of the action, showing why policy isn't just paperwork. It's the engine driving change on farms, in labs, and across the supply chain. Lauren Comin has a knack for making the most complicated policy debates feel like a conversation that you actually want to have. As Seeds Canada's policy powerhouse, she's not just decoding the fine print, she's connecting the dots between regulation, innovation, and what it means for the people growing our food. Thank you, Lauren, for joining me here in Quebec City. We're at the Seeds Canada annual meeting, and I'm curious, there's lots being talked about here this year, as always. I'm just wondering what your biggest takeaway is this year. Can you say it like you're explaining it like to your grandmother and not a seed industry audience?
Well, that's difficult for me, but I'll try. I think the theme for this year is transformation. We are at a crossroads. I think we have a real opportunity right now to be bold with what we want, with what we need. We have a government regime right now that is very interested in change. They're interested in being more efficient. They're interested in making things easier to do business so that Canadian businesses, Canadians, Canada is more profitable and is set up for success in the future. So I think what I've heard this week is this is not the time to argue technical details. This is the time to put that aside, get together, reach across, the sectors and say, what can we work together on that's really going to make an impact? You don't get a lot of opportunity to have these big changes. And I think with all the signals that we've been getting, I think it's time to seize those opportunities.
The community is very important to us within these walls, within our seed laboratory, and it extends outward. It extends out to our client base of seed growers, farmers, seed companies, plant breeders, and it extends out to our community of professional members in Canada, the US, and globally. And our motto here at SGS is when you need to be sure.
What's the most boring sounding thing that you've talked about here this week that actually affects farmers in a huge way? Like when you talk about it here at a conference, maybe it doesn't come out as being the most exciting thing, but that's actually like really impactful on them.
If we're going to go boring, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to go seed regulatory modernization. That consultation has been ongoing for over 5 years. We're at a point now where we're waiting for the policy document to come out that has the direction that the CFIA, picked up over the years of consultation. So we're waiting for that to come out. And we were just talking about transformation. That really I don't think it's going to move the needle for how farmers operate, and I wish it would. I mean, it remains to be seen. I guess we should reserve judgment until we see the document. But from what we've seen, the changes are they're not going to be transformational. They're not going to have the massive impact on how quick farmers are able to access innovation and how much that innovation is going to cost them. And that's really what we need to do. And I was talking about focusing on those big things. We need to start working on getting the proper balance between mitigating risk through regulations and increasing the speed to market and decreasing the cost to market for seed innovation to farmers.
What's one seed-related policy you would take with you to a deserted island, and why that one?
Okay. I can take SRM to the deserted island. I can then use it to start a fire, to signal for help to get off the island. all jokes aside, right? Of course, SRM it's still a very important consultation for us, and we're still going to make sure that we're able to optimize the benefit for our farmers and for their for customers and for our members. If I had to stay on the desert island with policy, I love IP policy. I could do all of IP policy 24/7. So if I needed companionship and I was going to be stuck on this island, I would take intellectual property policy with me.
And why that particular one?
It just fascinates me. I've always been a big believer in innovation, investment in innovation. Intellectual property protection is the mechanism to ensure that innovators are fairly compensated for their innovation, and that compensation goes on to spur on more innovation. So, I think if we really want to see innovation and increased investment, not only from the private sector, but from the public sector as well, we need to make sure that we have a strong intellectual property protection system. And I think Canada has some improvements that can be made. So, it's my role to push for some of those improvements, and not only for our membership, but for all of agriculture.
If you could delete one industry buzzword forever, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. For the long time, I had a real problem with regenerative agriculture. And I haven't been as involved in those conversations anymore, so I don't know where we're at there. But I don't know if we have a accepted or consensus on a definition of regenerative agriculture and what that really consists of. I think, we've seen some Hollywood movies and documentaries about it. And I just, when it's said, I want to say, like, what do you mean by that? So if I didn't have to hear that ever again, unless we define it, ag needs to really sort of take that back and make it work for us. But I'd be okay with not hearing it again.
Now we're nearing the end here. Finish this sentence. You work in seed policy when...
You talk almost exclusively in acronyms. So many acronyms.
SRM, Kuzma, list goes on.
And, I take for granted that not everyone speaks with the same acronyms, and it really is almost like speaking a different language. So, you have to be mindful of who you're talking to when you start pulling them out.
Last one. Let's say you've had enough and you decide to just rebel. What's the most chaotic policy-breaking thing you could do in your role?
So, Mark, I'm afraid I'm not going to give you the answer you want because, I work for an association that's governed by a board. I get my direction from the CEO. The CEO gets their direction from the board, and the board takes their direction from the membership. So I'm not going to be pushing out any policies that aren't the policies of the board and the membership. So, if I really, I'm a pretty principled person. If I really disagreed with everything, I think I would just have to exit the organization because I'm a stickler for governance. So, sorry, everyone, you won't see me going rogue. But I think that's probably a good thing.
Nope, that's a very good answer. It shows what a responsible person you are, which is what you need when you work in policies.
That's right.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Mark. This has been lovely.
It was fun.